We are now ready for our first talk, and it coincides with a wonderful promotion, because our first speaker is, as we speak, still a Secretary of State, but as he gets on the stage, he becomes a minister, which is great. His name is Frans Timmermans, and I think he's widely known among politicians as the sort of politician who actually reads books, not in order to use that as a PR gimmick, because he actually wants to read them. He's an open-minded man, highly intelligent and secretive, because except for the title of his talk, he told us nothing. His talk is called Be Like Jack Sparrow, Embrace Your Fears. Please give a thundering applause for Frans Timmermans. Minister.
Good morning. Well, the point is I always surprise myself when I start talking, so I couldn't tell them exactly what I was going to say. But I want to talk to you today about fear. Because, you know, fear can also be fun. Look at the way Jack Sparrow, Captain Jack Sparrow, steps in and out of death, makes a better future for himself. Look at the way these two hyenas in The Lion King, how they enjoy the shivers they feel running along their spines when they pronounce the word Mufasa. And look at the way your children react when they're told bedtime stories written by the brothers Grimm with all their horrible elements. They love it. They love it. H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen King, and even the rather less inspired makers of Evil Dead 1 to 10, they all know that fear can be very, very exciting. Fear is also potentially a strong political force for the good. If fear is combined with the knowledge that there is a way out, that there is a solution, it can unleash forces unknown to man himself. One of the most beautiful examples of this is President Kennedy's moon speech, when he knew, when the United States saw that the Russians, the Soviets, had an advantage on them in space, and they were afraid this would lead to military dominance of the Soviet Union. And then Kennedy said, "We'll put a man on the moon." And this unleashed incredible force in American society. And he said, "We're not doing this because it's easy. We're doing this because it's hard." And when you do things that are hard, you can show what you're worth. You can show how much force, how much imagination, how much creativity you can unleash in your own society. At the same time, there's another side to fear. Fear can also suffocate, can paralyze, can make you stay in the same spot and not want to move again. Fear is also, if it is turned into a political commodity, something that can paralyze whole societies. Today, in Europe, you often hear that Europeans, European culture, European values could dissolve like a lump of sugar in a cup of tea because of a foreign element introduced into our society, Islam. Today, people like Christopher Caldwell, Mark Stein, Bruce Bauer, they all argue that Europe will disappear, our values will go under. And they only have one solution for this, and that is the other should disappear. Physically, leave, or should disappear by becoming exactly like us. Those are the two only solutions they see for Europe to survive. Incredible, because we are so many. Our ideas are so powerful. Our diversity is such a source of strength that one wonders how it is possible that these writings can lead to such a low level of self-confidence that you would think that a minutely small minority of people who want to impose their ideas on you could do this successfully. But that is what bad fear, what the negative side of fear can do to you. In our times, on our continent, we face a huge choice Because what it does, the fear of Caldwell, the fear of those who think there's no way out, the fear of those who think we will disappear, it turns us all into Jonesy. Do you know who Jonesy is? Lance Corporal Jack Jones, does that say anything? He's a very, very great character in a series called Dad's Army. He was a World War veteran, and he was the only true soldier in that band of Dad's Army, and he always portrayed himself as a First World War hero. But as soon as something happened that was scary, he would start running around frantically and saying, "Don't panic, don't panic, don't panic." And this is what we're doing. This is what the bad fear is doing to our society. The choice we face today in our society, in our time, is whether we want to be Captain Jack Sparrow or Lance Corporal Jack Jones. Pretty clear choices. Why? We face a daunting challenge, perhaps the biggest challenge humanity has ever faced. We need to redefine the relationship between man and his natural environment. For the first time in humanity, the presence of the earth and its resources is no longer self-evident and eternal. We have to be more careful with how we deal with this. We have to also look at the world of an ever-increasing population. We need to feed. We need to provide with stability, prosperity, peace. And this is a daunting challenge. The bad news is we will have to rethink everything we do on a very personal level, how we live our lives. But we also have to rethink politics, rethink governance, rethink our organizational structures. The nation state can no longer solve all these problems. Governance is needed on continental level, on global level. And this means that we have to go back to the drawing board and convince people that things need to change in a fundamental way. That's the bad news. The good news, though, is that this can be done. It is not a scientific challenge. It is not a technological problem. The technology is out there. Science has invented the solutions. It is a political problem. Do we have the guts to face this and do the right thing, to apply the knowledge that has been invented, to better it, to improve it, and to make sure that this earth can feed 9 billion people, that this earth can create stability and prosperity for all? It's pretty obvious. If we don't do that, if we fail, if we drop the ball, what happens is that humanity will face natural and man-made disasters, and all our efforts will be directed at managing disasters rather than creating opportunities. Unfortunately, our Kraken, you know, the Kraken, everybody knows who the Kraken is, Jack Sparrow's enemy, the beast in the sea with all his tentacles. This Kraken has far more than just one tentacle. What happens in our societies is that because of the speed of developments worldwide, there's this huge speed of things happening everywhere. And the speed of these developments brings everything that happens anywhere in the world into your living room instantly. There is no avoiding that. The speed of change also comes to your country very quickly. Our societies change rapidly, far more rapidly than ever before in human history. And the speed of this change, the proximity of the problems, the proximity of the other, of difference, is another driving force of fear, sometimes paralyzing fear. It is also an eternal element in European history. Fear of the other. Every time we face change, every time we go back to the drawing board, or relations are changed either in society between groups or between countries, maps are redrawn, Europeans look at the other with apprehension. Is he a friend or is he a foe? Is he out there to put it in modern terms, to take away my values, to impose his views, to push me out of my own position? And have we been abandoned by the elites? Where are they? Why don't they come and help us? Have we seen a threat of different people coming into our society who want really to grasp the reins and make sure we go into a different direction without the liberty and freedom that's been cherished in this city since the 17th century? And fearmongers, the politicians who've found that fear is a great, great political commodity, perhaps the most successful political commodity in Europe today, will answer all these questions with yes, yes, this is what's going to happen. And what they'll do is they'll tell people bedtime stories after locking their doors and chasing the neighbor away from their backyards. Tell them bedtime stories about a past that never was, to seduce them in believing in a future that never will be. That is what is happening a lot in Europe today. We've had, we politicians, politics, but also those people who are now dismissed as the elite. We've had such an incredibly weak response to this challenge. What you see is that people react by dismissing the fears as irrational, nonsensical, which is a false. People see that the threats are real. People know or feel intuitively that their position is under threat, that it is not a done deal that we will always prosper, that our wealth will always stay. It is not a done deal that we will have a better future than today's present. It is not a done deal that we will have peace and prosperity in our society. Look at the dimension of the threats, of the challenges. And it is idiotic to dismiss these fears people feel as irrational, because they're true, they're real. Be honest about this. It could happen if we don't act. The second response is to mimic the fearmongers, to say, okay, they're popular with the electorate, let's just adopt their agenda, in part. Let's be fearmonger light. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. The third response, and frankly, this is what I see a lot in our circles, is to sort of come together and hold hands and say, we're the ones who are right, we're the ones who understood, they're all wrong, yippee-yi-yay. That doesn't help either. That does not help. We need to face realities in society. We need to look the kraken in the eye. We need to do what Jack Sparrow does and say, hello, beastie. Because look at society today. What is the challenge of politics? People have become very eclectic in their choices. They've become eclectic in their personal choices. Their fashion is no longer the same all over. It is not determined by your social group. And they construct their own set of values, set of political ideas. But politics has a problem with that, because political parties, certainly in the Netherlands, are still organized along the lines of a society that was but is gone, thinking that you have this complete set of values that cater to one group in society or people with one belief. And there's also the end of the European divide that has an enormous influence on this. With the end of the European divide also came an end to ideological dichotomy in the world. It was so easy to have these two poles, capitalism, communism. It was great because we as groups of people or individuals, political parties, we could sort of position ourselves somewhere in between the two poles and say, this is our spot, closer to this, a bit away from that. And that was so recognizable. This dichotomy is gone. And so the ideological dichotomy in the world is gone, and it's been replaced not by ideological confrontation, but confrontation based on identity. The foe is he or she with another identity, because people need something to lean against or to set a difference with. And this is dangerous in the society, as I described before, with all the rapid changes, etc. And we as politicians need to be far more aware of this, especially on the left side of the political spectrum that I represent, because conservatives have always been eclectic. Hanging on to power is the main reason. So you can be eclectic about values, eclectic about positions, because you construct a set of values that caters to the time. And to the left, ideology has always been less important. But the left needs to reinvent its ideology based on a good analysis of society and the voters, to get rid of this attitude that they say, here we are, this is where we stand, the voters are somewhere out there, let's wait until they come and see us. You need to go out there, you need to be with people, talk to people, confront them with their fears, be honest about their fears. Politicians have turned into providers of goods and services. I have an itch, please come and scratch. We're sort of like the service provider of a phone company. You call them when something's wrong, and you rather expect them not to respond, or to respond very briefly, and to perhaps provide you with a small service and slight discomfort, and then you put the phone on the hook and you forget about them all the time. We have, as a people, as a community in Europe, outsourced governance and politics to a cast of perhaps very clever and able people, but it is a fundamental flaw in our political system. We need to go back to a situation where there's one question we ask every individual citizen: what are you going to do about this? And we need to make sure that there's one response that we can't accept: call my MP. We need to make choices in our lives on an individual basis, on a societal basis, on a global basis, and it's going to be difficult, because only global governance can solve the problems, only the acceptance that there's one issue that we can solve together as humanity, or we go under together as humanity, if we seek it in confrontation and dominance of others. We will have to take action. Diversity is key to this. Now, when Jack Sparrow jumps into the beastie's mouth, what he does goes against the grain of your intuition. And what politics needs to do today is counterintuitive to people. When we say to people, the other is your salvation, is your rescue, to look through the eyes of the other will make you a better person, it is counterintuitive, because people feel the other is scary. I want to stay in my own group. If we say to people, governance can only be organized on a continental level or a global level, people will say, no, 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 I don't know all this. I want to organize it on a national level. It's counterintuitive. If we say to people, change because we need to change, because we need to redefine our relationship with the natural environment, is fun, it's great, it's successful, people will say, no, 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 it costs money, it makes my life more uncomfortable, I can't drive my Hummer anymore. So we need to have the force as politicians to face fear. Change will only happen if every individual, as Teddy Kennedy said, every average man and woman take their own responsibility in their own lives. If they do that, if they do well and with passion, what they need to do, day by day, we will prevail as a society. Thank you very much.